All right, there we go. Let me bring this back. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We are loading up here. Sorry about the audio issue there. We are nice and clean now. Let's go with our quick medical. All right, there we go. Let me bring this back. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We are loading up here. All right, quick medical disclaimer that the only purpose of this live stream is to educate and to inform, and it's not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or any other qualified medical professional. It's provided on the understanding that it doesn't constitute any medical or professional advice or services. All right, some goals of the live stream today are to present current articles in the media covering hydration and how it relates to endurance sports, and open a dialogue for viewers to ask questions, get advice, and talk about their experiences here. All right, so today we're going to be talking about a little bit about protein and essentially a small guide of what we should be taking, how much, when should we be taking it, and which proteins are best. We're going to kind of bundle it with the second part of our talk today, which is going to be about different types of proteins and their advantages and disadvantages one way or the other. All right, before we get started, if there's any questions, definitely drop it down here, here in the bottom of the live stream. It should definitely get, yep, there it is. Everything should be rolling through there right now, so thanks for all the updates there. All right, so today, why do we need protein? Everyone needs protein, actually, and it's key in many things that we do. The hemoglobin, which is in our blood, it can be used for energy. It can be broken down to be used for energy, also for muscle repair, as well as muscle synthesis. And we'll kind of go over all these little things as we go. So how much do we need is the next question. So for just a normal active person moving around, working, doing some movement activity throughout a week, about 12 to 15% can do it of your diet. But for a lot of us who are on Zwift, when we're training, you're looking at 15 to 20%. And then how does that break down? I'll break it down for us here pretty quickly. So one thing to note is that soreness typically is a very good indicator of what is needed from every day. So let's say you have a heavy day or heavy load of training, you're looking at 0.75 grams per pound. So for a 160-pound rider, you're looking at 120 grams, anywhere from that to 145 on a very heavy training day. So we really need to be careful on those amounts and making sure that we're getting those in our diet throughout the day. Not just in one sitting, but all throughout the day. And so really there's only about 30 grams per meal that we can be putting in. So it's important that we keep that as a note in our heads as well, because if you're putting any more than that, what happens is that you're not able to absorb it. Sitting, but all right. So when should we eat it is the next question. And so there's a couple different times, obviously. There's a pre-workout time window, there's a post-workout time window, and then there's, in ride. A lot of times, depending on the length of the ride, there's not a whole lot of case for having it during the ride. So what we'll talk about here is pre-workout and post-workout. So pre-workout, you're looking at 10 to 20 grams with about 30 grams of carbs about 60 minutes before, like a big ride, let's say. A lot of times here on Zwift, rides will come pretty quick at us, and you'll find that you wake up and you get on the bike and you just start riding. So in those situations, it's really difficult to get that amount of time before your ride. But if in fact you do, it's a good time to do that, about 60 minutes before kind of your big, let's say, outdoor ride or something like that. Post-workout, you're looking at about 0.5 grams of carbs and a little bit less protein as far as that ratio. So the way it would work out for, let's say, a 160-pound male or 160-pound rider, you're looking at 80 grams of carbs and about 20 grams of protein. Post-workout, the goal is typically recovery and is typically wanting to make sure you're getting your carbohydrate source to replenish your glycogen stores at that time. So over a day, you want to make sure that you're just protein positive or balanced in order to help recovery. Go to the next slide here. All right, so the question comes is which proteins are best for us? There's a couple different ones that we can go for. And first of all, there's branched chain amino acids. And those are actually proteins that are pre-broken up into the smaller parts, which are called amino acids, which are very easy and quick to be consumed. And then there's also essential amino acids, broken down into things that are not produced by the body that we need to get from our diet, and I'll talk a little bit about those. And then there's non-essential that actually occur in the body and that your body makes. So both balance between the two is really important. It talks about a future live stream on the different sources, but we're actually going to go straight into that today. So let me just hit the next slide here. So the question comes, what are the best types of proteins? So there are different types of proteins that we could actually take and that we can benefit from. There's whey protein, casein protein, egg protein, pea protein, hemp protein, and then the question comes like, which is best? And then kind of how do we make this all, work together in what we do in our riding and that sort of thing. So, all right. So, different protein powders. We're looking at whey protein. There's different types actually. Concentrated sources of pea protein typically come from animal or plant foods. There's also protein concentrates, which are mixed, meaning that they have a little bit of both, and then isolates, which are just proteins. Concentrates meaning that it's just mixed proteins. So we'll go a little bit more into that here next. And so looking at whey protein, it typically comes from milk in a cheese making process. So it's divided and it's separated into different levels, and it's actually taken the milk, the cheese, the fat, the butter, all those parts, and when it's squeezed through, there's proteins that are squeezed out, and that what is squeezed out is actually made into or processed into what's called whey protein. Whey protein does play a major role in muscle growth and recovery. So essentially the bottom line with whey protein, it's very quickly digested, it helps increase mass and strength, and it reduces appetite and promotes fat loss. So essentially, it's a very concentrated amount of protein protein source. And what we'll find is that it allows you, one, to get your muscle recovery going. Two, if you have goals of weight loss or anything like that, you could actually help yourself reduce appetite because you're fueling with that protein over time, and it will take the place of other things like carbohydrates to your diet and that sort of thing. So that is also something to think about. So counterpart to the whey would be a casein protein. It's also found in milk, and it's typically more slow digesting. There's a more gradual exposure to amino acids over time. So actually casein and whey as a combination could actually do really well for a lot of athletes. It allows kind of a slow burn, and then also that quick spurt of protein when you first get it, and then kind of that slower release with the casein. So mixing those two is very, very common. So essentially it's slow digesting, it could reduce muscle breakdown, and it could promote muscle growth just like whey protein does. So really good there. So some alternatives. So a lot of times people don't do good with dairy. They're not tolerant because for whatever reason. So what you can look at is actually other alternative proteins, and what we'll look at a couple advantages here. So one of my favorites, and one that is a very good alternative, is an egg protein, and it's known as an excellent source, both in the protein powder form as well as in the form of an actual egg. It's highly digestible, and that means it breaks down very easily, and your body is able to use everything it's given, and then. It's also a good choice for, again, anyone with allergies. So essentially it's easily and more completely digested, and it's easily absorbed in the body. The next would be pea protein, and it's relatively new. It's very popular in the vegetarian or vegan crowd. It's actually made from yellow split pea. And so the source is actually pretty good, and there's been a couple sources like Vega Sports and things like that have done really well with alternative proteins, and it comes from this source of pea protein and others. There are limited studies, but it is being shown to be as effective as animal-based protein. All right, the next one, actually missed one, is hemp protein. This is a plant-based protein. The only thing about hemp protein is you do see a lot of it in the media. It's not a complete protein, but it is in fact rich in omega-3 fats. So it is something that you can get on the side. So an additive, if pea protein or egg protein doesn't work for you, this can definitely be a good source. So essentially, bottom line for hemp is that it's easily digested, but it is low in some of the amino acids. Let's see if we can bring all of this together here. So which is the best essentially for muscle gain? You're looking at whey protein or a combination of whey protein and casein protein. If you're looking at for weight loss only, casein protein can do very well because it'll actually keep you kind of keep you full and feeling full longer, and can reduce that breakdown time of the protein so that you have like a small exposure over time. For vegetarians, there's a lot of good options like the A and the pea protein, as well as the hemp, but just need to make sure that we're not missing any of those amino acids that are definitely very, very important in our diets. So really, the take-home message is that we need to protein provides a concentrated, convenient form of getting protein into our diets, especially essentially as endurance athletes. We need to make sure that we're getting this in, and it's a convenient way doing it right off the bike. One, it's in a liquid form; it's easily digestible versus going in and cooking something up. But if in fact you are home and you are able to cook, let's say a scramble up, which is something I do, 4 eggs and a bunch of other stuff, greens and things like that. I would say do something like that if you can do whole foods. I'm always a big proponent of whole foods, so that's something definitely to consider. But it's not for everyone. But it definitely can help those who can't meet it with real food. So let's say you're out at an event. And you need to fuel. Grabbing something like a dairy-based, let's say chocolate milk, which tends to be a very popular post-workout recovery drink. It's got a good amount of carbohydrates as well as protein. Can be a very, very good source on the go, versus when you're home getting off the bike on Zwift and you get off and you could actually cook something. So definitely an option. There are a couple questions here. Let me see. We've actually covered 2 articles. This is a revisit of In the Feed Zone 3 and 4 of this season. But the first article was from Training Peaks blog, and then the second was from Authority Nutrition and Best Protein Powder, just kind of a review of that. Let's see. I did have a question or two here. Let me get to it on Facebook. Oh, whey isolate versus concentrate. So the whey isolate is actually broken down even further into just the protein components and amino acids. From how I understand, a lot of the science is done on a protein concentrate because of the mix of the different proteins that are available. So some athletes will do better on an isolate because it's quote unquote a cleaner form or a more pure form of the protein. But essentially, you will still get a very similar response, as I explained about whey protein, from that as well. So let me kind of quickly go back. You'll get very similar responses, whether it be from a concentrated form or an isolated form. So really good question there. Let me see. Anything from Discord? I know I've got a couple listeners here. We got 5 or 6. If anyone has any questions, I could definitely answer there as well. And then I will kind of scan the social media here and see if there's anything. But definitely just a quick revisit, per se for, about protein and kind of its importance. A lot of times people are making sure that they get their carbohydrate sources in post-workout and that sort of thing. And it can definitely get you the carbohydrate stores ready to work out again. But it can leave you pretty sore over the week. As you try to recover after your workouts. So getting in the protein in can definitely help stave that off, and make sure that you're getting recovered from day to day, making sure that you're burning the proper glycogen stores and not your muscle stores, and keeping your body balanced and healthy, because you can easily starve yourself and work out the way we do. You may be able to reach your short-term goals, but your long-term goals could definitely be put off just because of the muscle strength that you're losing and the fatigue that you're feeling, the lethargy, that sort of thing. So just got to be really careful in that respect. But otherwise, just keep it in your diet, play with the amounts. I think the last thing I wanted to go over was the dosages, like of how much, and I think we'll wrap it at that. So I wanted to go to here. So post workout and pre workout. The good recommendations were about 1 to 20 grams, with about 30 grams of carbs, and then a little bit less after post workout. And then the amounts here is per day. I think is really important to understand, because we don't need necessarily only put in that protein in that one meal before or after a workout, but all throughout the day. So kind of taking a mental count for anywhere from 120 to 145, I think is really, really important. So, okay, let me make sure there's not any questions before we go here. And then, yeah, go ahead. I'm here.
How many eggs a week are too many?
Oh, so yeah, the science is definitely getting better on that. I have been recommending my athletes to do more. The current science or the current media is saying yes, we can go back to eating eggs. No, it doesn't cause high cholesterol, and definitely I've gone up to recommendations up to 3 or 4 eggs safely for most athletes to get anywhere from 21 odd to 20. What is that? 28 grams of carbohydrates from that meal. So it's a nice balance. So I'd say 2 to 3 eggs post workout if you're home. It's a very quick go-to for me and a lot of my athletes, and it meets that 30-gram number that I was talking about earlier. But that's definitely a good point, because a lot of people are afraid of taking that, but we shouldn't be. I definitely think we shouldn't be. We're in a new time, and I think it's important for us to get answers for ourselves, and go out there. And I could post some research on that if you're interested. But really good question. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. So we've got about 12 minutes to go. The group's looking really good. We're gonna keep this going together, but I'm gonna go ahead and sign off if there's not any other questions. But I will have a new topic. One more question. Jerry Delport, how soon after a workout should we have protein? You could actually do it very soon after the bike. Give yourself a time. To get through your cool down. So I'm saying like 10 or 15 minutes to get through your cool down. It needs time for your body to come back and be able to digest food anyway. But if you're doing a liquid form, you could actually do it pretty quickly. A solid form takes a little time. You're looking at 15, 20 minutes to get the body get going so that it'll take a digestion in. But otherwise, you should be good straight away. But great question. I will have a new topic next week, so look forward to that. It's looking like we're going to be talking about beet juice and nitric oxides and things, and peeing rainbow colors like Mark Cavendish does. So definitely excited about that. If you have any questions in between, I'll post the articles here on Zwift Live, and catch all our replays during the week and all of our new content. And everybody doing the FTP challenge starting on Monday, good luck to you guys. And we'll be out here supporting you before and after every ride. All right, everybody, have a good day.